These things over here, your hands, they are the most beautiful tools since the dawn of time to make your videos interesting and lively. Now, all the great videographers, people who speak on camera and look fantastic, you'll notice that they've mastered the art of their own body and especially their hands in a way that they move with grace, with purpose, and most of all, their hands are going to reinforce the message that they're delivering. Now, on the converse, hands can be tricky. You also have people who get nervous and they just don't control their gestures. They could have repetitive gestures. So what I want to show you in this video is how you can be the master of your hand gestures, and we're going to talk about some strategies of what to do with your hands. I wanted to start with what to avoid before I go into the gestures that you should incorporate. So here are a couple of tips and what to avoid. So the first thing to say is, from my own personal journey, we all started somewhere. I can tell you I had the bad habit of being very repetitive in my gestures. It's not that my gestures were bad, but they tended to be very repetitive and a little annoying. There was one in particular that I used to do a lot, which is the steeple. And I used to basically speak like this, and basically every 5 seconds as I was speaking, I never realized that all I kept doing was this right here. And as you can see, it's pretty annoying. After a while, you start to tune off just because of that body language. Now, it's not that that specific gesture is bad, it's just that it was overused, right? And then you just can't stop focusing on that. So you want to be a little bit more fluid, you want to be more normal. And one suggestion I would say to you is it's perfectly natural, normal, that most people don't know what to do with their hands. So what you want to do is you want to come up with 4 gestures that are going to be your go-to gestures, and all you want to do is master those 4 gestures and make sure that you alternate throughout your presentation. So in my example, if the steeple was one of them, I could have a steeple, but then I could also have the opening, and then I could have an explanation on one side, and then potentially I could have something like, let's talk about 1 or 2 examples. Now, whatever those 4 gestures are, I just want to keep using those 4 gestures and then just keep switching them around so that I'm not always doing the same thing. And that's it. I guarantee you, if you can find 4 gestures that are very confident and something you do naturally, well, they're going to look good and you're not even going to be thinking about it anymore. It's going to become a lot easier to look great on camera. Now, let's talk about a few things to avoid. Absolutely don't do this. So we've mentioned the first one, which is using repetitive gestures. Number 2, abrupt gestures. I simply mean your gestures should be under control. Whatever you do and however you transit, you don't want to be doing too fast, too quick, or anything that's abrupt, because as you know, the camera captures everything. It also just makes you look like you have no control over yourself. Now, anything that involves your face, and especially face touching. I know that there are people on camera who are notorious for this. They will either go like this, where they're thinking, or they're covering their mouths, or they're covering parts of their face, or they're just touching their face. I don't know how much you can see this on this video, but I can tell you that anytime that you're covering your face, it's bad. It basically hides the most amazing part of you, which is your face, which is the one that has all the human expression and the one that is communicating. And if you cover it, well, it's not only that we lose your expression, but it makes it look a little dishonest. So don't cover your face, whatever you're doing. The last part is cliché gestures. Now, so long as you don't do any of these 4, I will tell you it's great. Cliché gestures would be things like, for example, thumbs up, or the peace sign, or anything like that, where these gestures, unless you're speaking to a young audience and you know for sure that those gestures are something that they relate to, I would stay away from them. You really want to make sure that your gestures are something that's a bit more open, more under control. Now, with that in mind, we've talked about what not to do, so now let's get to what are the things that you should be doing, and I'm going to share some ideas. I want to challenge you in this video. I want to challenge you to see these next two sections, which is going to be on open body language, and we're going to talk about assertive moves. And I want you to pick, from these next two sections, I want you to pick your top 4 favorite gestures. Now those 4 gestures are your routine gestures. They're your go-to gestures. So long as you have these 4, as you've seen in the previous section, you can always use this and alternate it as you're speaking to create a beautiful dynamic with your hands. And nobody's going to get bored of those. Now, as you get more confident on camera, you can of course incorporate more of them. So I just want to encourage you to watch this section and the next and pick your top 4 favorite moves that you can either follow and use my suggestions, or you can adopt something similar that works for you. So I want to start with the first one, which is your open body language, and I like to start with open palms. One of the suggestions I make to everybody who's new on camera is start with open palms like this. It forces you to keep your hands at, chest level, and there's so much that you can do from here. When you have open palms, first of all, it looks great, and you'll notice there's so much you can do. You can go side to side, you can go to the front, you can move your hands, you can do all sorts of things. Try it for yourself. This is the #1 recommendation I have. Start with open palms. The next one is your steeples. Steeples are a great way to sort of center yourself. You'll notice politicians love using these because it also makes them look grounded. Now, the only trick to the steeple is try not to close it, which is something I used to do a lot, but try not to close it too often, because if you keep it open instead, you'll notice it makes you less tempted to want to stay in this position, which means that you can stay here, but then you're always able to shift onto something else. Now the next one is the halt. So the halt is basically where you're going to say stop. You're going to make these gestures right here. You're going to show your palms. It's a friendly enough gesture, but it's still going to give you a chance to reset whatever it is that you're speaking about. Now that reset is wonderful for you on video because it simply makes you the person who's in control of the video, and it's also going to shift the attention. Whatever people were doing at that time, as soon as you do the stop, they're going to pay attention. So it's a great way of gathering your audience back in. And the last one, well, you want to use your counters. I love these. There are so many occasions when we're going to be talking about the 3 or, let's say, for example, the 2 or the 1 thing that you need to remember. Well, use your fingers as a way to count. Now, it has double purpose. Anytime that you say a number, people want to know, what are the 3 things that I need to remember? What are the 2 things I need to remember? Or what's the 1 most important thing I need to remember, right? And because you put that number out there, they're going to see that. They want to know what it is that you're going to say. So I want to share with you 4 of the typical moves that you're going to notice from pretty much every great speaker out there. They have a variety of these in their repertoire, and you'll notice, watch any videos on YouTube or online. I promise you're going to see these very often. So the first one is what we call the opening. Anytime you want to talk about some big idea or some great concept, is you are going to just open up. Now this is really assertive language because you'll notice that it just infuses so much energy and it draws the picture that whatever it is you're speaking about is something expansive. Now, as I say, there are varieties of it. So it can be like this, it can be like this, whatever you prefer, but use it often, and believe me, it's a beautiful one that you can infuse into your videos. The next one is what I call the chop, which the chop, you can do it this way, you can do it that way, multiple varieties of the chop. The chop, however, is just a great way to finalize points. It's also when you really want to drive home some type of idea, right? So look, we are talking about something, and make sure that you're going to do this because it's what it's what is going to bring about that change that you're looking for. So it's a very assertive move and an easy one that you can infuse into your presentations. The next one is what I like to call any of the emotional varieties. Now there are multiples, but I'd like to lump them up all together. When you want to connect with your audience, let's say that you're telling a story. Let's say that you want to share something that is personal, that happened to you, and you want to bring attention to your own body. Well, what you're going to want to do is you're going to talk about yourself, but you're going to touch yourself. And you're going to say, you know what? This was one of the hardest moments for me. This was one of the most difficult experiences I've ever had to live. And you'll notice that by bringing attention to me, I'm bringing in that focus in towards me, but it's creating an emotional connection with my audience. Your hands are the great enhancers of your video. Look, you can use these as the most amazing tools to make your videos be lively, to be engaging and interesting, and most of all, you're going to use them to make sure that you're going to drive your point home. Now, you've probably already noticed that a lot of the gestures I've talked about in this video are gestures that I use myself, and I do it unconsciously. Now, here are the main points from this video. Number one, I would love for you to be more aware of what you do. If we go back to the video journaling that we asked you to do earlier in this series, and I hope you're still doing, you're going to notice that there are certain patterns, and it's about being aware of what you look like on video. Personally, that's the only way that I was able to pick up on the fact that I used to use the steeple a lot, and I had to conscientiously stop myself from doing that. On the positive side, you'll notice that you have gestures that look great, and I've given you two categories of gestures that you can use. We have the open body language gestures, which is all about open palms and making sure that we don't hide our face. While as we've also looked at the assertive moves. So these are specific top-level moves that I've refined for you that I know a lot of really great videographers use all the time. So you've got the chop, for example, you've got the opening, you've got comparisons, and there are so many out there. Now, you want to infuse all of these moves. My suggestion is two things. First, download our resource on hand gestures. It's going to talk about hand gestures to avoid. It's going to talk about all those beautiful hand gestures that you can infuse in your videos. And remember that it's all about challenging yourself. I would ask you to pick your top four. Pick your top four gestures that you really love and look good on camera, and keep using those while you're doing your presentations. And that basically summarizes our side for the hand gestures. I will now see you in the next video.